This time, the group Natas is from Detroit, and the controversy involves a rap song with suicidal lyrics. TV2's John Noel reports that a boy from Tennessee is listening to the rappers.
So I tried to kill a voice.
With 2 albums in the record store area.
Very, very popular, at least in the Detroit region. When they put a new release out, generally it's in our top 5 for 3 weeks to a month.
Well, it appears the word on Natas, which is Satan spelled backwards, is spreading. Earlier this week, a 17-year-old Nashville teenager killed himself while smoking marijuana, playing Russian roulette, and listening to Natas' album, Life After Death. But members of the group say they can't be held responsible for what others do while listening to their music.
Don't blame us because of that, you know. We didn't know the guy personally. We didn't tell him to do it.
I listen to him all the time. I wouldn't go out and kill myself.
Now, no one is saying listening to this kind of music will make a teenager go out and take his own life. The question is, what sort of influence does it have on a youngster who is already troubled and maybe contemplating suicide? Some psychologists say messages in music can influence the mind of a vulnerable teenager.
Teenagers and a lot of people look to their musicians as leaders and role models.
I'm not a role model. I'm not trying to make nobody happy. The bottom line is, when it comes down to it, regardless of the music or anything, you're going to be the last person to decide whether you want to live or die.
In Detroit News.
Well.
Natas.
Back. Yes, man, the 90s were a crazy, crazy place, man, I tell you. But welcome back to the 17 Wayz Podcast. I'm 007, the James Bond of the wicked shit, and I have with me
Violent J, the country singer, as I am known online, also known as Sharif, as I am known in the real world.
Amen. So, what do you have to say about this album overall?
Overall, I listened to this album for historical reasons. It's not one that I listen to just to listen to it. I think Natas has a lot of better albums. But, you know, when I'm listening to Natas, you know, like as their entire discography, you know, this is it. And it does show where they were at the time.
Right.
And the fact that this album came out before Judgment Day is really interesting to me. We can talk about that.
Yeah, that is very interesting. The more I think about it, man, like we've said off screen before, is Esham was a very busy man in 1992 through 93. Like very, very busy. I mean, he never really slowed down, but those were very busy years for him. And I'll go ahead and say right now, this album is very important and monumental to me because of what it represents. For one, it represents the uprising of Natas. It marks, it's monumental is like for the fact that, that Esham was trying to come into his own and make Real Life more of a brand and record label, more than just, you know, a 2-man team with him and his brother Dead Boy, or James as some people know him. And yes, it's a warm-up album for Natas. And you kind of got to see where their production was going too, man. Like I said before, man, I don't think Esham got paid at all on any of these albums. If you were signed to a record label back in the day, like an actual big label, he wouldn't have got paid because all them samples on there, man. I think there's like some songs have like up to 4 samples or 5 samples or 6 samples per song.
And some of the samples become more obscure and interesting, and we can talk about that.
Yes.
So you want to
crazy.
You want to start with this review?
Yes, sir. I'm going to start with the intro track, Life After Death. We're going to go ahead and roll the album.
All right, let's do it.
Life After Death, man. I love that Prince sample in the beginning, man. Esham has stated that he's a very big Prince fan. Let me see. Maybe I can adjust that volume a little bit.
It's got a Prince sample, and it's got some Beastie Boys in there, what I remember. And do you know what that sample is where it goes, you got two choices of what you can do? Oh, that's the Beastie Boys
That's
one.
the Beastie Boys chant. That's a Beastie Boys sample. It also has a Parliament Funkadelic sample in there as well. It comes from Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow. I forget the actual name of the song, but
that's Maggot Brain, right?
Yeah, Maggot Brain. And Esham has been stated to be a huge fan of that project, Maggot Brain. Like it is a classic. I will say that that's not the best Parliament Funkadelic piece of work, but at the time, you got to understand, like 1992, you're basically fresh off the 80s at that point, only 2 years into the 90s. So a lot of people were still in, like, the G-Funk era was just starting to pop out, with like The Chronic and Above the Law, Eazy-E and shit, when he became solo and, everybody left Ruthless and shit. So it was like the in thing to sample old funk records. But I love the way that Esham did it because he didn't do it like Dr. Dre did. He would take the obscure parts and truncate them and use them as samples. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. That gives us some insight into how Esham's mind worked. He wasn't just trying to make big hits. He's a music lover, and he's into the stranger side of things. That's where his head is.
Yeah. He's a very when people are going right, he's for sure gonna go left, or he's gonna just make his own lane. Period. He's gonna trudge through the weeds and the shrubs and the snakes and the alligators just to make sure that he is unique and that is being felt. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Now, on my end, I'm not hearing the album. So if you could just tell me when the second track comes up, I'm going to play that for my own self here.
Can you hear it
now? I can hear.
Okay.
I can hear it now.
Just making sure. Cool. Awesome. I am glad you can hear it. Yeah, man. A lot of people, I really urge a lot of people to go just check this out for yourself. I don't know if a lot of people are weed smokers, but back in the day when I first heard this tape, yeah, we were smoking hella weed, tripping out, and I swear, like, Esham's music or Esham's product is like acid. It is very trippy. I mean, some of the content, yes, is very, very juvenile, and you could really tell that these guys are kind of new, not necessarily new on the mic, but they're sharpening each other. Like iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel. It's you can hear the practice going on, if you know what I'm saying.
And immediately you can tell they each have their own kind of delivery. They have, Esham obviously has a strong voice of his own. Mastermind has one of the most unique voices I've ever heard in rap. And then TNT is very much, he has this kind of old school flow. And I don't know, sometimes he just sounds kind of funny. Like
he does.
He was just, I thought you knew,
This is kind of one thing I've always thought. Maybe people may agree, but sometimes Mastermind sounds like a grandma. Like he talks like
a grandma,
like an old witch cartoon. Like some of his delivery is just like Mastermind, like, I don't know. It just sounds, I don't know. Sometimes he just overdoes it to me. Like, I don't know how I could explain it and convey it in the correct way, but sometimes his delivery is just a little jarring, if you will.
it can be a little bit shrill, like kind of snake-like, maybe reptilian is what comes to mind when he's really leaning into that voice. But yeah, he does sound like he could be like a demon or something. You know, it's not how it's.
I'm sorry, dog. I'm sorry. You said he raps like a snake.
You said, didn't you say grandma at first?
Yeah.
No, it's just, it's kind of. I don't even know if I could really imitate it well. It's just it's kind of an otherworldly mastermind. I don't know.
He raps like a demon.
A very unique voice. Sounds like he came out of hell. I could understand how he got in this group. Esham probably heard him and went, come with me to hell. Or
Esham said, "Hey, bro, you rap like a demon. I could use you." You sound like the
exactly.
devil. I think I could put you on. Maybe, Mastermind in 2023. Let's say, man, like he's looking for beats. Does he search in? Hey, I need a demon type beat. I wonder. I should ask him. But anyway, enough of the roasting going on. This is I Did It Like That, which relies heavily on a Beastie Boys sample. Again, I think this is what I was thinking the other day when I was listening back to it. I was like, man, this must have been one record that, like, maybe one of the only records he had or something at the time, because, man, he sampled the shit out of the Beastie Boys. But knowing Esham, there's probably a deeper meaning to that, too. He's like, I'm going to use up all these white boys taking over hip-hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has a very weird militant mind sometimes when he doesn't need to. He is also admitted to kicking his own self in his ass from time to time, just because he gets a little too militant minded with stuff,
I always just assumed that he had an eclectic taste, and he just liked all these different samples. So this is the first of many sex tracks on this album, and it's very irreverent. We're just, it's never anything romantic. It's just like us three guys are just gonna go in a room and fuck any hose we want. And it's just very kind of a teenage mindset.
And also see, like, it almost seems like when I imagine it, like, damn, they're in there running a train on the same woman. Like,
it's what it sounds like that they're rapping about.
Yeah, like TNT did it like this, Esham did it like this, and we'll get into it eventually. There is a track where they do reference to running a train on a female and on this album a couple times, and I think that just was a popular thing for Esham to do back in '92, because it's not the only time he's ever referenced that. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, but and maybe that's how they got so close. You know what I'm saying? Like, seeing your friend's penis, seeing your friend in a compromising position, kind of bring you guys apart or bring you guys together. Like damn, bro. Like,
well,
that was their
we're all adults here.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of male bonding I like to do, just personally. But if that's something that you're used to from a young age, I guess that's what you're gonna rap about on about half the album.
I mean, that's
when you're with your homies.
Yeah, like what are you gonna do? I mean, you couldn't really rap about taking a shower with your homies. Like, I mean, so I guess you just rap about running a train. So, but now we're already on to the third track, which is Dance, which is a
Dance is the
solo.
third track?
Yes.
I didn't realize Dance was the third track. Okay.
That's how cohesive the album is, which I got to say real quick before, I got to land this real quick. Esham is so good at sequencing an album. Sometimes it just plays through as one song if you're not paying attention.
I do feel like when I'm listening to this album, toward the middle, it all just kind of blends into each other. and it does feel like a medley or a suite of early Natas sounds.
Yeah, they definitely had a specific sound, and also something I've always spoke of when it came down to Natas albums. If you play them next to the current Esham album of that time, they're always better sounding. Like, of course, this is all recorded in Esham's bedroom. This is that era, but it still sounds better than Judgment Day. Both of them, and it just seems like he spent more time mixing and doing whatever mastering he could on the equipment he had at that time.
Okay, I'm going to disagree on you saying that this sounds better than Judgment Day. I think Judgment Day is leaps and bounds better in production. But if you want to compare it to the EPs that came out the year before with Homie Don't Play and the Erotic Poetry CD.
Okay.
This one, it definitely is way better produced. The Erotic Poetry CD in particular sounds muddy.
Of course. Oh, yeah, it's very muddy. It's hissy and muddy, but this is something. It's not really about it's really the engineering that I'm talking about, because if you play Judgment Day and this album next to each other, it is a lot cleaner and it sounds a lot better. The Judgment Days are classics and are the better albums, but this is mastered and mixed better.
Okay.
I don't know. I listen to all my shit on big ass speakers. But as far as, I listen to, I've had the Judgment Day cassettes before, and those sound even worse to play in a car. But, I think he remastered them at some point, right? Do you have the box set?
I did own the box set at one point. That particular remaster, a lot of people complained that it was just kind of too loud. And a lot of depending on what kind of headphones you use or what kind of system you're using, you can run into some distortion.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend one of the earlier pressings compared to that thing. And I think the remaster, quote unquote remaster, is what you hear on Spotify now, and that is the really loud version.
True. It is. It really is.
But that's another discussion for another day.
Yeah, for sure it is. We'll get to the Judgment Day albums soon here, but we're just talking about.
Now we're on.
It's a Toss Up, which is another sex song.
Yep. They do kind of go back and forth. You have, one track about violence or something dark like suicide, and then the next one is a little breather. It's like, we're in the house again. We're gonna fuck you and your sister and your mother, and anybody that has the right genitalia.
They're definitely not. They definitely weren't progressive as a lot of people are today. I always got a kick out of this shit. Like, sex songs were a big thing in the 90s, which it always kind of made me wonder, like, do you think they might have taken inspiration from Two Live Crew and all the, Miami artists at the time that had an almost adjacent type of style when it came down to sex? Because you had like Too Short, who would talk about like the pimping and, just players style type of sex rap, and then you had guys like this who were really, really explicit with their material, or like you damn near, if you use your imagination, you were damn near there when they'd be talking about having relations.
Yep, this is definitely porno kind of music. It certainly is like Two Live Crew, and I mean even that kind of style goes back to the, what do you want to call it, like the reggae and dub stuff.
Yep.
So there might have even been some inspiration from that. It's dirty. It's
Yeah, very dirty, and it also takes it back to, like I said, man, this is, we could kind of say that
Or even
90. Go ahead, sorry.
even Blowfly, who actually there
Yes,
is a sample on here from Blowfly.
yes, and that's what I was actually about to say. I was going to start referencing, even like 70s blaxploitation films that you can kind of see that they took inspiration from, like Dolomite, Blowfly, shit like that. Like, because at the end of the day, I still see 90 through 92 as basically the 80s still. Like, I don't feel like the 90s revolution took place until 94, really. Like,
Right. Up until there was a big change between the first NWA album and then with the Chronic, I feel like that's where a lot of stuff started to change. But yeah, up until like 92, even 93, they were kind of still stuck in the late 80s kind of NWA thing.
Yep, even like the sampling style. I mean, we do have to give it to, the equipment of that era. But, they still were using the same equipment in 93, 94. And actually, all right, now we're on Bitch Stop Lying, which is one of my favorite songs. And if I wish a lot of people could have been there, you know what I'm saying? 94, 95. Like, this was actually a song that people used to dance to.
Really?
It has a very New Jack Swing type of sound. Yes. There's a lot of people that used to cut a rug to this fucking song, and it's very, very high tempo, high pace. I think
this is like a party track. It's one of the sex songs that some of them are kind of just low, not fast paced, more slow paced, and just kind of dirty and funky. That this one is something that you could turn on at a party, and it's one of the more lighthearted things on the album.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of people that really weren't into what you would call, acid rap or the wicked shit. They definitely liked this song back in the day. And I'm actually surprised it didn't get, it is very riddled with expletives, and I like the fact that it references something that isn't really prominent now, as far as having to approach a woman in a public space and then getting rejected when she says she has a boyfriend. When good and well, 9 times out of 10, she's a hood rat, and half the homies in the hood done hit it already, but she gonna sit up there in front on you. You know what I'm saying? You just tell her, bitch, stop lying. You know what I'm saying? And they took that Ice Cube, that Ice Cube sample too, which is awesome.
That was Ice Cube?
Yeah.
Bitch, stop lying. Okay.
Yeah, from Dope Man. Oh no, Gangster.
Okay, I knew I heard it somewhere. It had to be in, Ice-T or Eazy-E.
Yeah, it's Ice Cube off of Gangsta. And my favorite part of this song is he said, "Hey, young ho, my name is TNT. Is there a problem with see me? I ain't got no gold chains. I ain't got no 4-finger rings. I ain't got no HIV." That's like, hey man, imagine if you had to make your Tinder profile like that. Like, hey, check it out. I ain't got no gold rings. I ain't got no 4-finger rings, and I ain't got no HIV. So I'm the perfect candidate, right? Like, I qualify for that pussy, right? Like,
it's a funny track for sure.
Like, hey, I ain't got hey, by the way, I don't have HIV, so you should be able to see me now, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think I might put that on my Tinder profile to see what happens. I think that might get me a little bit more action than I've actually been getting. That's what's missing.
That's funny.
I need to let them know that I don't have HIV. You think that'll work?
Just saying it might not be proof enough.
Oh.
But
okay.
But even just putting it out there, it's funny.
Yeah. Or that's the equivalent of COVID. It's like the vaccinated picture, the vaccinated thing that you put on your picture nowadays on Twitter. I've always got a kick out of that song. That's one of my favorites, definitely. This is one of my favorites too. Bad Guys Never Lose. I like how they put
Bad Guys
TNT
Never
solo.
Lose.
Yep, I like how they put a TNT solo and then a Mastermind solo right next to each other, so you can get a feel of who's who. I think actually at that point, oh no, never mind. But yeah, I was about to say that, Dance, which is Esham solo, and then it goes Toss Up, and then it goes Bitch Stop Lying, and then it goes to this song here, Bad Guys Never Lose. And I think this is the song where I recognize like Mastermind was probably going to be my favorite member of Natas, even though he raps like a snake.
Yeah, and this begins.
Oh, we lost Mr. Violet J, the country singer. Well, guys, just waiting for him to get back in here. In the meantime, you guys need to go check out Deck One Dealt. They broadcast every Sunday, usually around the same time at noon. Yeah, no, Deck One Dealt, those are our guys. I'd like to send a special shout out to them as well. They've been so supportive in what we're doing here. Those are our brothers over there, and we may have a surprise coming up for you guys very soon as far as a collaboration. Small technical difficulties going on. Gotta send them the link again, looks like. Gotta send them that link. Come on, Sharif. Where'd you go, buddy? I like to say, go ahead and sign up for our Discord right now. I will make sure to put it in our description. I need to start actually being more active on Discord. I pop into both servers here and there, Deck One Dealt, and also, the 17 Wayz Discord. My man, Violent J, the country singer, is in there constantly moderating and, talking back and forth. And go ahead and comment whatever memories you have listening to Life After Death, or if this is your first time. And also give us some suggestions. What album do you want to see us do next? There we go. Got you back, buddy. Okay. Can you hear me? All right, there we go.
Okay, so this is going to be the second Mastermind track in a row now.
Yeah. So, fun fact, this was actually, this album was supposed to be initially Mastermind's solo album, which ended up turning into a Natas album.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Go ahead, sorry.
I wanted to say about the track before this one, it had this weird kind of, I don't know if that's an organ or kind of like synthesizer sound, but it sounds really spooky. And then this one gets into the rock and roll kind of sound. So this was definitely, it showed the future of what Natas was going to sound like.
Yes, they've always, and that's something I've always respected about them. They didn't put themselves in a box. I think they kind of did when they were kind of still trying to find themselves on the next album, which we'll get to eventually. I feel like they kind of bit into that G-Funk apple on the next album, but here you got to get a kind of a glimpse on what they're going to be serving to us fans and what we're going to be consuming. I love the fact that they've always embraced rock and roll. You know what I'm saying? That it's always been such a taboo thing to deal with as far as in the black community. You know, it used to be kind of looked at weird if you liked rock back in the day. But they embraced it, and they made it so tasteful at the same time. And may I say, this is something I don't really know, but whoever their DJ was doing the cutting and scratches on these albums, man, like they're killing it. I've always loved the cuts that they used and whatever scratches they used for their hooks. Like it's just fire, man. I always love DJs, and that's one thing I never knew was who is their DJ, who is their turntablist, and I'm a real life connoisseur, if you will.
Right. It doesn't say anything in the credits.
Yeah, no, not that I've seen. Really, they've kind of been vague about it. It always usually just says produced by Esham and Mastermind, or Esham TNT. It never really says who does what for real. Yeah.
I don't know if there's any way to confirm this, but at the time they were working with Mikey Clark here and there.
Ooh, you know what? You actually, hey, you know what? You are right. And, you know, a lot of people don't know either. Mikey Clark is probably one of the dopest turntablists out there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He actually taught Shaggy 2 Dope a lot of what he knows as far as scratching and all that shit on the turntables.
And Shaggy is pretty great. I love his work on the Supervillains album.
Yes, dude. And that's, you know, I know this is kind of unrelated, but man, Shaggy 2 Dope is underrated as far as being a DJ. All those scratches that we love and know on all those early albums up till Supervillains up till now, he's responsible for. Here we go. This is a very controversial take I have about this song. Get my head together.
Get my head together, yeah.
So let me land on this real quick because it's a conspiracy theory I have. So Violent J once has mentioned within Behind the Paint and in a couple of the Patreon episodes that Esham produced the original Never Had It Made, which utilizes this Beastie Boys sample. And Violent J conveys that him and Esham actually fell out, and Esham took the beat back. And being that they were working on Carnival of Carnage from 91 into 92, I believe that Esham took the beat back and put it on the Natas album. That is a hot take. I could be wrong, because Esham is famous for using samples on the same sample on multiple songs, just in different variations.
Yeah, no, you told me that recently, and then I thought about it, and it is, you know, if it is the same sample that they ended up using on the Carnival of Carnage, Never Had It Made. You know, that I think you might be onto something there. It might be a little bit slightly different than what's used on this album, but if it's based on the same sample, I don't know. I think you're onto something there. Yeah. So
go ahead.
This particular album, this particular song has Esham. It says Esham solo, and he's freestyling. It sounds like, or the first verse might be written, but then it gets it starts getting more and more obvious that he's freestyling the longer it goes.
Yeah, the longer it goes, it's like he started with an overall concept. I'm just gonna go off of that. Probably wrote the first couple bars and was like, you know what, fuck it. And you know, if he did fall out with Jay at the time and just took the beat back or whatever, I could see him being like, well, we're just gonna make it work. We gonna make it work. It's gonna fit. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not giving that beat back whatsoever, so I'm gonna put it out on my own material. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love how bullheaded Esham can be sometimes. It's quite petty and hilarious, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a theory. I could picture that, but Yeah, some of the stuff that he's saying right now, like slip my wrist, drink of orange juice, and then there's this weird sample that I don't know if anybody knows what it is, where it's like it sounds like a female talking.
Yes, and you know what?
Do you have any idea what that is?
No, man. I did a lot of research and I cannot find what the fuck that is. I know it's like a spoken word record from like the 70s. And
right.
He's notable for actually using these weird story records from back in the day. He used one on 17 Dead. You know, the 17th boyfriend lost his
erection.
Like, and you know, that's a very Esham thing, man. Like, that's also where I got some of my creativity as far as when I make beats and shit. I like to use as many obscure elements as possible, and instead
maggot acid smile.
Brag about it at your next barbecue, man. You gotta love this shit, man. Who thinks of this kind of shit and incorporates it into a record, man? Come on now.
You had to, obviously.
And then he also, something I missed to mention. He threw a random Roger sample in there on one of the hooks.
Right.
And, you know, most people wouldn't throw a Roger sample in a song like that. You know what I'm saying? And we're landing on Hellraiser, which personally, I'm not, this is something I'll let spin through, I'll let it play through, but I think the beat is kind of annoying a little bit, personally. It just sounds like Esham's in there like dee 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 like nigga damn, come on, man.
Yeah, it does sound like something that might be on Boomin'. Is still that kind of little more primitive sound coming from young Esham.
Yeah, actually, you're right. This does sound like it could be on Boomin'. Like this might be a scrap beat from Boomin' for sure. Has that snap, that infamous snap that he was using at the time, which he was using the snap on Judgment Day as well. So you could hear, but Esham is always so we're in an era now where production is going to be as uniform as possible. So most of the producers that are working today, all their beats, you're basically they're going to do something to where it's one of their beats. Now it's kind of gotten lazy because they use beat tags, like Shaggy the Airhead and Devereaux. They just put their beat tag at the beginning. But Esham would do certain things to where you would recognize, like, that is an Esham beat for sure. Not just the sound of it. Like, when I heard 17 Dead, not only because Esham appears on it a little bit, but I could tell that was an Esham beat from the gate. You know what I'm saying? Esham had a certain sound at that point,
Yeah.
This says it. So I take it. This song. This is where it starts turning into Esham soup for you.
Yeah, exactly. Just a moment here. Yeah. All right.
Yes, we're back after those small technical difficulties. It's all good. But we're just midway through the track Hellraiser. I don't think you really had anything more to say. Neither do I, really. I mean, it's pretty straight to the point. If there's something that you wanted to go ahead and say and, reach out to a certain person, who is that person?
I just want to say hello, Esham, if you happen to be watching. Thanks for all the great music. I know we're over here giving our opinions on music. We're not really trying to be critics here. We just like to talk about music, and I'm sure that's something that anybody can relate to. You know, this isn't a profession. This isn't. You know, we're just a couple of knowledgeable guys, or you know, by just comparatively knowledgeable.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, Mr. Esham, Mr. Smith, I am a huge fan of your music. Even when I don't like something about your music, I find something to like about it. You know, I am not a critic at all, sir. You have been a big part of my life since my teenage years. You actually helped me navigate my life, you know, during those teenage years, you know, when I was 16, trying to figure things out, where I wanted to fit in and all that good stuff. So, hey, man, we are not your enemy. We are not out to criticize. We are basically part of your support system and representation that you are lacking out here. I know you represent enough. We feel that you need more representation. Acid rap, the wicked shit, needs more representation, adequate representation. So that's what we are here to do.
Yeah, we know there's a lot of people who listen to Esham online, and we're just trying to bring them together through this little show.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this is about. Especially, and I notice there's a lot of old school fans out there. They do go looking for this type of stuff. And like I said, it's just, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are people out there, but as far as depth goes and really getting into the meat and potatoes of these albums, it's not represented correctly. Let's be real, man. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. Not to hurt any feelings or anything, but I'm being for real.
Yeah, just the long form podcast just doesn't have the right stuff when it comes to Esham, RLP, Natas.
Yeah,
all that good stuff.
Yeah, and you know, we're coming into a day and age where, you know, right now there is no more Natas. You know, ever since we lost TNT, you know, so people will never get to experience Natas like we got to experience Natas, which, you know, it was a hell of an experience, man. And that was one hell of a group. And that's why I feel like they got to be celebrated, man. We got to proverbially give them their flowers. You know what I'm saying? It sucks we can't give TNT his flowers because he's not here, but we can spiritually, you know what I'm saying? And we're here to represent that and keep him alive through representing his music.
It's true.
So, you know, with that being said, much love to Esham. We respect you. We love you. And you're the reason for us doing this podcast right here. Well,
yep.
Is that about it on that one?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, if Esham happens to be watching, that's awesome.
Yeah, I really feel like he is, and I hope he gets this message. So we're gonna move on to the next track. It's "Bitches on My Mind," and it's for some reason, for some reason on this playlist on YouTube, it has Hellraiser 3 times. So I think that's somebody's favorite song.
Nice.
Bitches. What do you think about this song, first and foremost?
You know, this is one of the funnier ones too. I think this is the one where Mastermind's on it, and dick in her ass, and I hear her shouting, and it just goes. She goes. It sounds all weird and cartoony.
Yeah, I think that's what the point of the track was. That's something I noticed as well. It's really animated on this one. It's like it's almost like it's a very flippant, you know, tongue-in-cheek type of song. But it's back to that sex topic that we were talking about, man. They really hammered that nail all the way in on this album for sure. Not saying that on the future album. Well, I don't know. I'd probably go on a whim to say this is probably one of their most sex-riddled albums, I would say.
It is, and the second Natas album has a lot of sex tracks from what I remember too, but this one I think a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
This track here is really bouncy, and I'm thinking in another universe, like ICP and Natas could have made like a track together like this.
I'm so surprised they never did, and that's actually a good point that you brought up. We never got a Natas and ICP collab. That would have been so fire. Like, let's say Natas and ICP 94, 95. Oh man, that would have been a fucking collab of the ages, man. A collab of the century. Man, that's kind of sad. We never got that. I wonder if it's just because they didn't really like the white boys. I don't know. Or what if Esham wanted to keep them away from each other? I don't know. I mean, they did shows together.
They weren't just white boys. They were, fucking around in clown makeup.
I mean,
I'm sure a lot of their fans would have just looked and go, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, because that's the thing. Natas, at the end of the day, we got to call it, man. Yeah, they did this thing called Wicked Shit, but they still had the streets, which ICP had a fraction of the streets, but it mostly went to the suburbs. If we're being real now, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, maybe some of the more Esham focused fan base would have listened to ICP, but maybe not in public.
No. They would be listening to ICP in a closet, in the basement, in a treasure chest with a winter coat on.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, no one's gonna, you know what I'm saying? Hey, but that's okay because, like I said, I could tell you, as my experience as growing up in the hood and stuff, when I started listening to ICP and became a juggalo, I had to wear that shit. I just had to stand on it, or no one was gonna respect it. I had to really like strut that shit around and like be like, look, I'll fight you over this shit. Because if I did it, motherfuckers gonna treat me like a weirdo.
I really didn't my life was not in the streets, and even when I started listening to ICP, I'd be scared of people seeing me put the CD in the Walkman. and I didn't buy any of the merch, and if I told somebody about it, I'd be like, hey, check out this group called Dark Lotus. Yeah,
exactly. You're putting in the CD, like you're covering the whole shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah.
I'm like, is it making a lot of noise? Can people hear what I'm listening to?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it was a very novelty type of thing, to a lot of people, and a lot of people just didn't understand it. And, that's what Natas, like I could listen to Esham and Natas with no issue. And niggas would just think it was some regular gangster shit, you know what I'm saying? And like, okay, yeah, right. Cool. Let me put on some shit about Toy Box, and niggas are like, what the fuck? It's like, as soon as I put that shit on, everybody looks at me like, wait, what the fuck is that? Like,
yeah, what is this cartoon circus music? Oh, we're in the circus now, huh?
The fuck is this? Hey, don't get it twisted though. I am a through and through juggalo. You know what I'm saying? I just never. There is a difference. When I was coming up, we're kind of in the weeds a little bit, but I'm just gonna say this: being a juggalo is separate from any other thing. You know what I'm saying? To me, juggalo is just part of my personality. It wasn't, Anyway, we're just gonna move on. This track is called "Mysterious Wayz." We
just went over one of my favorite lyrics on this album, and Esham's like, me and Mastermind and TNT, and I want to say fuck every last human being.
That is a hard ass.
That always came out real good. Every time I heard it, I was like, yeah.
Mysterious Wayz. This is actually, so when we were talking about the middle of this album kind of starting to become like a Esham type of soup. I think this kind of wakes it up. This song right here kind of wakes it up a little bit. It has another Beastie Boys sample as well. And this one is from Paul's Boutique.
Yeah, shake your rumpa.
Yep, exactly. So I mean, we see that Esham was a huge Beastie Boys fan. He damn near sampled both of their records of that era on his record. Yeah. Which is like, okay, it's nothing new at the time. At this particular time, Redman brought out What the Album, and he sampled How I Could Just Kill a Man from Cypress Hill, which it just came out too. So I think, Esham was right on par for this. For a while, that was kind of seen as tacky. Like, don't sample someone's record like when it's still new, but Esham doesn't give a fuck. Who's going to stop him?
Sometimes some things just have to be sampled.
Exactly. And look how he flipped this. Like, a lot of people need to give Esham his flowers as a producer too. This is all him. Yeah. This is all him.
Well, I know when I first started, I found out about Esham from the internet, I'm kind of like from the Napster days. And so I heard Esham on a Kool Keith album, but then I started reading about him, and the critics, like in the early 2000s, the early aughts, they did say that Esham was an impressive young producer back in the day. Yeah. That was like a highlight of his output.
Yeah, man. And to that point, we're now on Rocket Deadly, which is why it kind of turns into like Esham Soup again. But he has a nice Prince sample in there, which this is the first time I ever heard somebody do a sample like this, where they just truncate a small part, like a small fraction, and they just loop it, and they basically arpeggiate it and make all kinds of different notes out of it and just stretch it and distort it to where it's kind of hard to recognize, but if you know, you know. And,
yeah, he was doing that on the Erotic Poetry EP, from what I remember too. Like, even just recently I was listening to that and I was like, is that an Erotic City sample? Yeah. Like, I didn't even recognize it for the longest time. I'm like, oh, okay.
Shit, he even sampled Keith Sweat on Erotic Poetry. Eventually we will get to that EP. Not one of my favorites. I mean, as far as quality-wise, I've never heard a clear version of it. It's always sounded like it was dubbed off a tape.
Yeah. Yeah, it does sound...
It's very muddy. Like, very, very muddy. Shit. Homie Don't Play sounds a little bit better. But I do like the delivery overall on this song. I mean, it's kind of... The point has been hammered in that these guys have their own styles and they're all versatile. And, I think that's what the beginning of the album was for. I think this album is probably about maybe 8 tracks too long, in my opinion. But,
wow, 8 tracks? How many tracks are on it?
I think it's around 21 or 20.
Okay. Yeah, it could use maybe a couple, 3 or 4 maybe. Less.
Yeah, there's just a cut. Like, so I feel like the album does pick back up towards the end.
Yeah, I'd say this track in particular feels long.
Yeah, I think it's
just kind of,
honestly.
Yeah, it is kind of a monotonous beat.
Yeah, it's just kind of just the same shit over and over. Like, bam, 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 bam. Like, all right, like. I usually do go ahead and skip this song when I'm listening, but
around this time I kind of forget I'm listening to this track.
Yeah, it's like you take a nap for a little bit and you wake up when it's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a 2-minute nap. You know what I'm saying? That's good for this song.
I think I have a memory of like waking up and then hearing like, I smell your cunt again.
Maybe they did that on purpose. Like, look, we're going to put him to sleep in the middle of the album.
I was like, oh, is this album still on? Oh my God.
Like, oh shit, man, goddamn. Like, you were hypnotized, sir. Like, I do love how he sampled the Flavor Flav, hit that shit, and then I really don't know where the Rocket Deadly sample comes from. I kind of feel like it might be one of them, and he just sampled it in, but I don't know.
Yeah, he might have just recorded that sample himself and then lowered the voice, something like that.
Okay, I need to ask your opinion. What do you think of Who Am I?
I'd say it's a highlight of the album. This is the TNT track that I think of when I think of this album.
Yeah.
He had like a sex track earlier, right?
Yeah.
But this is one where I go, oh yeah, this is TNT, and it's this is his "Fuck the World" of the album,
Yeah, actually, and see, this is also something that's like kind of foreshadowing of where Natas was gonna go, because they had such interesting takes on just life in the ghetto, life in poverty, the prison system, the crack epidemic that was going on, and of course, I don't know why they got better at it. At like, do you believe in God? I mean, they did pretty good on Blasphemy, but I don't think that's what that album was for. But on this one, you can still tell that they were still sharpening, like finding their craft. So, I noticed there's just a couple bars in this song that just kind of like, okay, well, you're kind of going somewhere, then you lost me for a second, and then he picked it back up, and then he lost me again. But I get the overall point of the song, and yes, this is one of my favorites, but not my favorite, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Now, let me ask you this. I can tell that Esham wrote some of TNT's lyrics, especially on this album. Do you think he did it on this track?
I would say, all right. So look, I think you're onto something there. I think Esham might have wrote the template of the song, and then T kind of switched certain things up to fit him better. Because back in the day, that was frowned on, like having somebody else write your shit, even if no one knew about it. You know what I'm saying? So if that did happen, I would say that Esham wrote or co-wrote. Let's say co-wrote. Mm-hmm. I think that might be the thing. You know what I'm saying? I think that might be what's going on here. Which ultimately, if that is the case, it helped mold TNT into the rapper that he became. Because, bro, I'm gonna be real. T got better and better, man. Actually, like, when I think of Natas albums, man, like, a lot of his verses are what I think of. I mean, a lot of people like Mastermind. A lot of people love I love him too. I actually used to, I think I talked about this already. When I was younger, Mastermind was my shit. Mm-hmm. But as I grew into, becoming a lyricist myself and a producer and shit, some of that shit that TNC would say, or how he would if you notice, he either opens a track or he closes it in most of the cases, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, they all have their shining moments though on all the albums. But TNT, man, yeah, some of the craziest verses, I'd say. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I like maybe he wasn't just using Esham lyrics early on. Maybe he just was kind of copying Esham a little bit.
Yeah.
He was in his world, and then later on, I feel like he loosened up a lot on the later albums. Yeah, and became more of he came into his own style. You could tell he had a certain way of delivering lyrics that it's just unique. I don't hear that style. It is kind of old school style, but it takes a lot of courage to just kind of embrace an old school type of flow.
Yeah, and to make it work,
And to make it your own, make it unique.
Yeah, exactly.
It took me a while to appreciate Anybody Killa as a rapper, but nowadays I've come to appreciate. He found his not necessarily a gimmick, but he found his, what's the word I'm looking for?
He found his cadence. He found his sound.
His cadence. He found his sound. He found that thing that he does, and he just rocks it.
You know what, though? Speaking of ABK, bro, when I heard Hollow Point, I was like, okay. But, like he kind of, like his version of Tales from the Lotus Pod is not the one. I'm not bandwagoning. I actually tried to give it a shot, but it's just not it. But anyway, we are on Spit My Last on a Hoe. This is actually one of the highlights of the album. The beat is smooth. They sample Shorty the Pimp, and
like I'm not familiar with a lot of early rap music, honestly. Like you mentioned, what was it, Curtis Blow or? But anyway, are you there? Oh, okay. Can't hear you right now, but yeah, I'm not sure how common it was in these times to just rap about being a John. I would have thought that would not be an acceptable thing to rap about, but they just come right out and say,
yeah.
I'm paying for sex. I don't give a shit.
But you know what? What's crazy is, so Esham has always rapped about being a John, which always lost me because I never thought that was cool. Like,
right.
I'm paying for where I'm from, look, paying for pussy is frowned on, and I never have and never will. But
right,
this also opened me up to, like, maybe in Detroit that's what they do, because if you notice, ICP talks about buying pussy all the time too. Like,
yeah, I've certainly lived in neighborhoods where it's just like, man, I got $5.
Hey, I do not want no part to any female that can suck my dick.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
That's a cesspool of diseases and feces and malfeasance, boy.
Oh, you don't want that kind of energy entering into your personal circle either.
Yeah, it brings a whole new meaning to blowjob. She's gonna blow a demon up your dick hole.
Yeah, or just, you just don't want certain kinds of people around you. But anyway.
No. To that point, you were right, man. Sex is a weird thing because of what you allow. You are fusing with a person spiritually and physically and intimately. So I understand where you're going, and that's a conversation for another episode, or we might start having a segment on deep shit. Random deep conversations that we have. All right.
I didn't mean to start that conversation, but yeah, that is that is an aspect to it. But yeah, kids don't pay for sex. It's
don't do that.
Don't do that.
That's like wearing somebody else's jewelry, man. Don't do that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think, Esham? Do you think they thought this part was funny? I'm going to kill you. Have you been drinking? I'm going to kill you. Like,
yeah. The first time I heard that, it was really confusing.
I didn't get it.
Are you gonna kill somebody because they're drunk and you smell their genitals? What?
I guess that's.
Did you write that when you were drunk?
Oh man, here we go, man. What do you think about this?
Honestly, just looking at the title, I don't know what this track is.
Bitch, you can't have me. So it's like part 2 of Spit My Cash, Spit My Last on a Hoe. It's like literally like a reprise, which I like how they positioned it because it plays into each other it plays in like one long ass song, if you ask me. Like, it's like they're saying, because if you notice in the beginning of the song, for the ending of 92, for the beginning of 93, you bitches can't have me. So the song before, it's like, yeah, all right, that's 92. On this next one, we're stepping into 1993, it's the same song, but just like a reprise with a Houdini sample. I love this beat too. It just rides, and it sounds really good in the car. And then how Esham comes in right there, that's my favorite part. Like, he just comes in eating. Yeah, this is actually. Go ahead, sorry.
Personally, I don't have any memories of this track. Like, I recognize it just hearing it, but I don't remember like having any opinion one way or another on this track.
I remember when I first heard this song, it's because I had put this I had a 5-disc CD changer at the crib back in the day, and I would just put in shit and I'd clean the house. And I remember I never really got this far into the album because by this time, so I had the cassette first, and by this by that time, so this was on the other side of the tape, so I never really made it to the other side. So on a CD, I'm cleaning the house. I'm not really concerned about going and changing the song. I remember I heard the beat, and I heard they sampled the drums from Amaho on Houdini. I was like, okay, yeah, and that's how I came to know this song and actually fuck with it. I actually really like it. I don't have crazy memories. I just remember cleaning my house and hearing this back in the day, and I was like, oh, this is tight. Like, shit, I'm missing out. So yeah, it's very short too.
This could be a great cleaning your house album. I could see that.
It really is, bro. It really is.
Yeah.
Home of the Brave. I love this song. It kind of covers like, look, man, like, yeah, we're from Detroit and we represent it with pride. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had the impeach the president sample. And,
I'm not familiar with that one. Who does that one?
So it's an old like folk band. It's a very popular drum break that's in hip hop. If you listen to the drums, you've probably heard this drum sample a lot. Janet Jackson has used it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just it's very popular. It's just like the Houdini Friends drum sample. Everybody's used it at one point. I like how this song actually ends, though. Esham is the king of the switch up. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's towards the end. I see how you feel like it turns into kind of Esham soup because songs kind of just play into each other, which he is also the king of. And then around 96, 97, he started putting like that TV break in the middle of songs to kind of separate.
Yeah, starting with Dead Flowers started doing that a lot.
Yeah, that was like his favorite shit, which took away some of the cohesiveness. So I don't know. I'm kind of neither here nor there about it because I like this style. Like the CD plays like one big song in a sense, you know, or like a mixtape. And I kind of like that style, but then I like the character of the TV breaks in between the songs. What do you prefer?
They both work. I think the TV break, the transition is kind of it's kind of an all-purpose transition.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the track is before or after. You can just kind of make it go. Yeah, and it can be something very different, you know.
And then usually, I mean, on Dead Flowers, he would do the TV break and then say some slick shit right there, right before the next song, you know. Like, I've always loved Esham's shit talking because it's kind of it's different, but it's disrespectful at the same time. Like, I always love that. He's always represented his plight and oppression as a rapper. You know, people just taking his shit. He's been big on that since the beginning. Like, I think he kind of spoke some of that shit into existence, if you ask me. But so now we're on Dirty Mind. Unless you have something else to say about Home of the Brave.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
this track right here has interesting production.
Yeah,
like it has that that part where I don't know, it sounds like you died, went to heaven or something.
Yeah.
It's like the angel music and the harp and all that.
Yeah, I love how this album starts to tone down towards the end. It starts on like a very high. It's like a slope, man. It starts high energy. Oh yeah, okay. So this is a Prince song called "Give It." It's called "Do Me, Baby."
Okay.
So that little part right there was another Prince sample. Which, yo, I'm gonna tell you right now, if Esham was on a major record label, none of these records would have came out. Prince was not clearing no type of samples, especially with what they were talking about on it, because Prince would actually listen to the content that you like what you used and how you what you rapped over it or what you said over it. And Prince was very picky about certain shit like that. So
from what I understand, Prince doesn't allow a lot of covers of his songs, and I know that he continuously rejected Weird Al Yankovic when he was coming up with parodies, and he'd have to send it to Prince, and Prince would be like, "Nope, can't do that."
So we can just say right now, Esham being an underground artist and selling his shit hand to hand through local mom and pop record stores is what helped us get this music. And I'm gonna say right now, man, his sampling style, it was bitten. A lot of people started using that style. A lot of people in the mainstream industry, man, they'll never admit it, but they know who Esham is. They're starting to admit it, but a lot of people won't. Like, oh yeah, I got this from my man Esham. I don't know what their deal is. That is why he is the black sheep. You know what I'm saying? But you know, like this sampling style carried the '90s for the majority of the time, man.
Did you give any examples of more established rappers using Esham style?
So I'll say right now, man, Dilla used his sampling style for sure with the truncated sections as a loop, and then laying a different drum break. Let's see, Large Professor, who did some of Nas's shit, was sampling like that too. Because if you notice, man, if you listen to like East Coast rap from like 90, 93 through like 96, the sampling style changed. And you know, New York and Detroit aren't that far apart, man.
No, they're not.
You know what I mean? Like they're close
It's
enough.
like
and
2 states away, like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois.
And Esham is from New York at the end of the day. I mean, he spent most of his time in Detroit, but he is from New York. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Long Island, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and that's just, you know, I'm not claiming it as fact, but I listened to a lot of the similarities of what Esham was doing from like 90 through 93. And a lot of producers weren't doing that on the mainstream. And then you go to 94 with Premier, Large Professor, LES, a lot of those producers, JD from the Far Side. A lot of maybe they just all, you know, maybe it's all coincidence, but I really don't believe that, you know.
I never thought about that.
You know, shit changed, you know, like if you listen to hip hop from 90 through 93, 92, 93, it sounds way different than you go to 94. It's like they all caught on to Esham shit and they're like, ooh, that sounds good. How can I do this? And it's crazy. Esham was a very minimalist. He didn't have a lot of equipment. He was doing this all on minimal equipment. Like, shit, he even says it himself. A lot of it was all taped up and raggedy and falling apart. And, you know what I'm saying? If you could do that with just that equipment, man, like, you are a fucking genius.
Yeah. Yeah, and an outlaw in a way, too. It's kind of, with all the samples, you're an outlaw. Very do-it-yourself.
Yep, very DIY, and it also goes back to one of the most important lessons I learned as a producer myself, is that it's not the equipment, it's the person operating and using the equipment. Because I can have a multi-million-dollar studio over here, but that doesn't mean I'm going to make Dr. J quality music, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know why he's the barometer for what's good. That's another fucking conversation if you ask me. But yes, Esham as a producer, man, I can go on for days. I've taken a lot of inspiration from him, and I'll always give him credit. You know, him, DJ Paul from 3-6, a couple other people. But ain't got shit to lose. What do you think about this? Like, what is your overall thoughts on this song? Does it pop out to you?
No, it's got kind of a downer kind of beat, but which would make sense for the subject matter.
Yep. And I noticed Esham's, so that there's like a saxophone sample that he uses in a couple of his songs that pops up on this one.
Right, yeah, it's on that Kill the Fetus. Yeah, it's on a Kill the Fetus track. I can't think of which one right now.
So it starts on What Is Evil. It opens up.
Oh, that's true.
And then it pops up on a couple other songs on that album too.
Wow.
I love what he did.
And that's a really dark sample to use.
Yes.
And like that would have to come from some kind of a documentary or I don't know.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing too. Like, I love how much like Esham never rejected his blackness, even though he really could have. You know what I'm saying? Like, he always brought awareness to what was going on in the ghetto.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and that just going there makes him a lot more not just darker, but it's more serious when you talk about the horrorcore genre. Listening to something that's Esham or Natas is not just like, ooh, I'm spooky, I'm gonna kill somebody.
Yeah.
It gets deep into the anger and the hopelessness.
Right.
And I think that's why I related the most to Esham. I mean, you know, ICP's up there too, but the horrorcore in general, there's just something that it doesn't have that Esham and Natas had.
Yeah, you know what? And that's, you bring, like, man, I'm so glad we're on the same fucking page about that, because to me, yeah, it's horrorcore. You're rapping about butcher knives and doing all this crazy shit. But really, when they're referencing horror, it was the ghetto. It was the plight, the oppression, the epidemics, the AIDS, the crack, the police brutality. Like, when it was an actual thing to be, you know, that needed to be seen, you know, like that wasn't being represented. That was the horror element, showing what's going on inside the ghetto with a twist of crazy shit in it as well.
Well, yeah, mental illness isn't just like, oh, I'm scary, I'm dangerous. It's you know, all the stuff that you see around you. You know, if you have mental illness, you're more likely to be surrounded by other people with mental illness. And
exactly.
You recognize the inequality and the injustice in the world. And, you know, there's a lot more to being dark than just gore and violence.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. And that's the thing, too. Like, I hate to keep reeling it back into the black community, but, you know, I think these are things that need to be talked about when it comes down to Esham, because at the end of the day, he is a black man in a relatively predominantly white genre, if you will, that became kind of white. But mental illness wasn't represented well in the black community in those days, man. Like, you would just get told to suck it up if you were talking about you were depressed or something like that, or you didn't know how to feel about certain things. Like, it was a very, you know, your masculinity had to be in check back in those days. If you were talking about depression and shit like that, you were considered a fucking pussy. You were considered to be weak. Like, so you dare not to talk about any of that shit. You better just act like you're happy all the time.
I'm kind of thankful because I could have been an emo kid, but I guess I just found this kind of music at the right time in my life.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not listening. I'm glad I'm listening to stuff like this, and not, I don't know, the music that's just crying and whining.
Yeah, crying.
No offense to anybody out there who listens to that kind of music, but
all the offense intended. I'm just. I'm not gonna go in. I really could go in right now and just go ahead and break it on down, but we'll save that, for a couple episodes in. But
right.
But in the name of RLP, this has always been. This is one of the main songs I think of when I hear this. When I think of this album, it's in the name of RLP.
Yeah, this is a highlight of the second half for me, for sure.
Yeah, man. This is my song for you to meditate on. I love the beat, and I thought for some reason that this closed out the album. I think it does, but I don't know. Like, I'm fuzzy now.
No, it isn't the next track, the last track, "Dancing on Your Grave."
Yes, you are right. Yep.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, I mean, the last time I listened to this album this week, it ended on this track, and I was like, oh, that... Like, I remembered that this track existed, but I didn't necessarily remember it sounding like this. I think Booyah is definitely a way better ending track.
Yeah, hey, actually, you know how I was just talking about that Friends, the Houdini Friends drum break? He uses it on this one. The drums here are from Friends on Houdini. Friends, how many of us have them? I love this drum break right here. Yes, Esham, man, again with that production, man, I can't let go of it. That's like one of my ticks for this episode because, yes, this is a very monumental album. It's not the most referenced when people talk Natas, but I can tell you one thing, man. The production is on point.
Yep. It's definitely that classic Esham production. I just realized that we haven't talked about the logo. The Natas logo, I think, is probably my favorite logo of all time.
Yes. Dude, man, back in high school, I used to try to fucking draw that shit, man. It's one of my favorite logos, man. And what it stands for, it's right. Of course, they were very provocative with it because it was already Satan in reverse. Mm-hmm. So they give it horns and a pitchfork and a tail. Like, I wonder who designed that. Do you think it was Esham?
I was going to ask you. I really don't know if it's Esham. Hats off to him. It's just evil looking through and through. It looks like it could have come out of like the 1920s. Like it reminds me in a way of like those old kind of like Betty Boop cartoons. I don't know. It has that look where it's, I don't know, something about old cartoons. Even the ones that aren't meant to be spooky, but especially the ones that are, really do kind of give me the creeps somehow.
It's stuff like this that kind of gave Esham. I think some of this stuff kind of pigeonholed Esham in the 90s because this is all people expected from him. Is like very shock riddled albums talking about crazy shit. And eventually we will get to it. Closed Casket, is the symbolism of him closing the casket on the wicked shit. And I think by that time it was already too late. I think he should have just embraced it and doubled down, tripled down on it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we love him for.
He did on the Natas albums. I mean, he might have had Closed Casket in 94, but then Natas just got eviler and eviler.
Yes, exactly. So just a little precursor to before we get to those albums. I will say that after Closed Casket, you know, do you believe in God? I don't really see that album as like evil. I think it's actually trying to open people's eyes concerning religion and how they're blindly following churches, and these churches are just corrupt, and no one is without sin. And it's basically asking a question: why do you believe in God?
Right.
What God are you? Yeah. What God do you believe in? And we'll get to that. I know that's like way ahead of us, but that is something that, you know, needs to be contextualized.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's nothing superficial about what Esham actually did with Natas. It wasn't just, you know, this is satanic, scary music. He did touch on something like real and spiritual. And I don't think he ever, like, if you notice in interviews, he never comes out and says, yeah, we're Satanists, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, you know, he what he does rap about, he takes very seriously. And there's passion there. And
by the way, that was the end of the album. It ended with Dancing on Your Grave. You know what I'm saying? That's going to go right back up on the shelf with the rest of the Natas albums. I will ask you, though, where do you think we should go from here? You know I personally picked this album, so I want to see where you go next.
I can't wait to start branching off into other 90s horrorcore, because that's something I didn't dive deeply enough into when I was younger, especially because you couldn't find it. You couldn't find it anywhere. You know, it was hard enough finding Esham and Natas when I was in New York City, of all places. If you can't find it hardly anywhere in New York City, how are you going to find it?
Exactly. So, yeah, no, exactly.
I'm still just catching up with a lot of stuff out of Memphis and the South, and even the West Coast. I slept on that. That was impossible to find in New York and the Midwest when I was younger.
Yeah.
Now that everything's on the internet, I'm like, look, I've got weeks worth of music to catch up on.
And not to put it on the spot, but like maybe we'll convene after the show or whatever. But maybe one more RLP album of your picking, and maybe we could branch out. But we'll decide. I was thinking
maybe Fuck Everybody.
Okay.
They do the first Natas, and then we can do the last Natas.
Okay, yep, and that's the thing. So everybody knows, we're not doing shit in any particular order. We want to, you know what I'm saying? This is a abstract class for the wicked shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what we feel. And, fuck being uniform. You know what I'm saying? The only uniform part of this show is what we talk about.
This is why I can do this show with you. You know, I never do anything by the books. When I was in school, you know, they'd say, put these sentences in order. And I was really good in school, really. But you give me that, you know, as far as I knew, I was great at English. And, you know, I was always great in English class. Put these sentences in order, you get an F.
Yeah,
I got F every time.
You know,
because
I've always just, you know, I've always had a lack of organization. You can even tell, bro, like when it even comes down to starting the show, I'm always like doing everything at the last minute. But that's how I work. I work so much better in chaos than I do in serene tranquility. And that's just me. I love working under immense pressure, which is, I don't know how I ended up that way, because I don't know. It's just strange. That's just how I work, though.
Well, the way I always looked at it is that I had a very logical way of ordering things.
Yeah.
But it's not always going to be what you expect. Okay, so we did the first Natas. We're going to do the last one. Maybe we'll do Blasphemy after that, and then whatever, the Vatican.
Yeah, and see, the Vatican. I've always loved the album artwork, but I never could really just get my hooks in on that one. So that'll be a good one for me to do, for us to do as well. And yeah, no, and you know, as far as organization goes, I always like to chalk that up to perception, because what you see is what someone may see as disorganized and chaotic to someone else is organized because they know where everything is. So
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, it's chalked up to perception. Because how are you going to tell? Like, think about it. Something is alphabetically arranged, you know, alphabetical order. But if a dyslexic person walks up, it's not going to be in order. You know what I'm saying? Like, from their perspective, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just, you know, I mean, I could be wrong, you know, maybe that's a terrible analogy, but I don't give a fuck because, yeah.
Well, one of my other big idols that I look up to is George Lucas. And what did he do? 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. And people still scratch their heads over that.
That's awesome, you know, to be able to keep things perplexing in a sense, but interesting, you know what I'm saying? Things that make you wonder why, you know what I'm saying? Things that just make you wonder why. I've always loved it. Like, that's what I love about Esham, the mysteriousness. Like, you know, we only know so much about him. Yes, even till this day, he's done a lot of interviews and stuff, but there's still a lot of things left in mystery, you know what I'm saying? And that's why it's always kept me hooked.
There was supposed to be a book coming out like 20 years ago. I remember it was announced at the end of the Violent J book that there was going to be an Esham book, but still waiting on that. Someday, I hope. Someday.
And see, that's the thing. I think it's gonna be a while before we actually get an Esham book. I hope I'm jinxing it right now and we get one tomorrow. But I think Esham's thought process is like, I'm not done yet. I'm gonna write a book and I'm not done yet. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of artists won't do like documentaries on themselves, like in-depth documentaries or biopics and stuff, because they're like, well, my story isn't finished yet. Why am I gonna? But then again, if I could tell Esham something, bro, if you're listening, you got to tell your story before someone else does. Period. If you want your story to be conveyed right, make sure that it's you that's telling the story. You don't want somebody just piecing things together from the history and the media that's already out there. You want to tell your story. And I know that's up to you, Eve, but I think that would be good for us in this moment right here, man. What are we? He's going on what, like 30, 35 years in the game already. So
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
you know, you're very close to a 40. He's close to a 40 piece in the game, man. So I think he might want to just go ahead and get that book rolling or something. We got the Natas documentary, and for you guys don't know about this documentary, it is on YouTube. I'll put it in the description so you guys can go check that out. It is Nation Ahead of Time and Space.
And really, get that Natas box set. It's still on the Acid Rap website. It is one of I'm not a collector. It is absolutely gorgeous. And it's everything that Natas ever put out.
And yes, and actually, so just so we know, if you could, because you have it. So is it so the Natas albums, are they represses, or are they like the original RLP pressings?
No, they're not the original pressings. And this album, Life After Death and Blasphemy, are both remastered.
Okay.
So they sound better now.
Oh yeah,
and, And the discs themselves they're better than I remember them being when I originally had them. When I got most of these albums, they were the re-releases on TVT records.
Yeah,
So
yep. And I'll
what
tell
you
you right
can
now,
buy now is a lot better than what you used to be able to buy.
yeah, no, I hated the TVT re-releases for some reason. I had Esham's Booming TVT. I don't know how I ended up getting it. I think I got it from Media Play back in the day. I'm not sure, but it was always so quiet. Even in the car, like, it was just so fucking quiet. I'm like, yo. Like, I hated a lot of the TVT re-releases. I had a Blast for Me TVT re-release, and it sounded like crap. I don't know what they did, but hopefully, yeah. So I guess what I'll do is I will get the box set, and maybe the next episode will be me unboxing it and kind of giving a demonstration, possibly. That'll be a goal of mine. I'll put that in the Palm Pilot, and yeah, man. You have anything else that you want to cover, brother?
No, I think this was a great episode.
Beautiful episode.
I'm so glad that I'm making this show with a friend.
Yes, a friend.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, a long time coming, man. And it's the chemistry is still there. Yes, we're doing it remotely at the time being, but you never know. Soon, you might catch your boy in a different state somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, I thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also, hop in the comment sections. Talk to us. I like to answer questions. Give us some suggestions. Give us some feedback. We ain't gonna cry about it. You know what I'm saying? Like we're both grown men. So if there's something that you would like to see or something that you think we could be doing better, reach out. The hate is welcome too, because I can roast with the best of them. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, your mom's sitting right here. Anyway,
I'll start crying, but I'll get over it. When the internet person says something mean about me, shit! Man, I have like an actual life here. I don't need to worry about that.
An actual life, yeah. No, I'm the king of the trolls. So get at me if you want. We can have a virtual roasting session. I don't give a damn. Anyway, this has been the 17 Wayz Podcast with your boy 007, the James Bond of this here wicked shit.
And I am Sharif, Mr. Reef, whatever you want to call me, Violent J, the country singer. People think that's funny.
Yeah, better known as. That's why I was like, man, am I just going to call it Violent J, the country singer? Fuck it. I think, bro, I think that's just your moniker, dog. That's just what it is. Like, at the end of the day, like...
I'm happy to be Violent J, the country singer.
Yeah.
I use that online sometimes, and even, places where you wouldn't expect to find people to get the reference. People know that reference. So
exactly, bro. So yeah, once again, man, you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Like, share, subscribe. We're out of this bitch.
Bye.